Hello, welcome, Helen, Authentic Discovery, with your Speak Your Truth conversations. This week we are talking to the lovely Mary. I will ask if you could subscribe, like, share, and all of those things that you're supposed to do down below. So I'd really like to say thank you for joining me. And Mary, thank you so much for agreeing to talk with me in conversation. Could I ask that you introduce yourself to everyone that's watching?
Absolutely. My name is Mary Sexton. I'm the owner and operator of Purple Scottie Coaching. I work with patients or clients who have experienced trauma and want to move forward in their life away from that trauma. I live in the middle part of the United States, so that all those weird states that blend together that no one can remember which ones are which, that's where I live. I live in actually almost the geographic center of the United States. I live outside of Kansas City, Missouri, in a little small suburb. And I was a single mom. Well, I still am a single mom, but my daughters are grown up now. So I feel like I'm not a single mom like I used to be because she's an adult now. So, and we're hanging out in lockdown like many other people still around, not only the United States, but still around the world.
Okay. I don't know if I was right, but I kind of, when you were sort of like, she's grown, when you spoke about your daughter growing, I kind of got a little bit of like, not actually, I'm happy about it, but I'm not overly happy about it. So I don't know if it was real or perceived, but would I be right in thinking that it's a bit of a dual-edged sword?
It is right now. My daughter and her boyfriend have both gotten new jobs. They pay a lot better than their old jobs did, and they're talking about moving out into their own place, which is awesome for them. A little sad for me because I'll miss not having someone in the house all the time. Um, so we're in the house all the time. We still don't spend that much time together because we're both running around doing our different things. So even though we reside together, we don't necessarily, like yesterday, my daughter and I went out together to go do a supply run, and we don't usually do that together, but we did that together yesterday. And at the end of the day, my daughter's like, wow, that was really great, thanks for doing that with me, Mom, I miss getting to hang out with you, da 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 da. And we are in the same house every single day. So it's interesting how you can be sort of ships passing in the same space. And I'm thinking, wow, it's hard for us to connect in the same building. How's it going to be when she lives in a different town?
It can
So
be more intentional, I find, on that level, that you
yeah.
make, it isn't, you have to make the effort. And I think that like you said, you can live in the same house with someone, but because you're there together, you don't think you need to make appointments or to make time because we live
Right.
in the same house. So why would I need to do that? When in reality, when they are flown, I think because it has to be more intentional, you can actually have more quality time with them.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know whether that will be your experience, but that definitely has been mine.
I hope so. We will be struggling with time since both of us will have to be, she'll be doing all of her own grocery shopping because I shop for the whole house when I do it. Um, and laundry and all that, she'll have to do on her own. So that crunches into your weekend time, and pretty much your weekends turn into just long days of chores.
And
I remember from when she was, yeah, when she was little, I remember, Saturday we spent all day running chores. Sometimes on Sunday we'd have some time to do something fun, but generally the weekends were crammed full of all the stuff we couldn't do during the week because by the time I got home from work and got her home from daycare and, made dinner and did homework and all that, day was over. So yeah, there's some challenges there with adult children too,
intention.
because you don't want them to go.
No. So I'm going to take a leap here as well, because that would
Mhm.
kind of, I'm in that phase. I was talking with someone this morning, actually. My children, this is the first time that me and my husband have lived on our own. So it's a very different way of living. And then there's also the time of life that I find myself in, where the body is reacting
Mhm.
on its own and doing what
Yeah.
it wants, and the mind can kind of follow a little bit. Um, and then there is this empty nest. And I don't know whether this will be something that you experience or you may be starting to experience, but for me, I find it very difficult, because all of a sudden there was a question around my purpose, which hadn't
Mhm.
really been through my younger life, although I didn't have my children until quite late, the reason I like, well, what now? Where now? So have you started to think like that, or have you reached that, or is it something that you're kind of going, you know what, Helen, actually, no, let's not go there because I don't want to?
No, it's a mixed bag, because I really do want her to go off and be on her own and do her own thing, because it's really very different when you move out on your own and you get to figure out what you really like, and what it's not about your mom's stuff or your grandmother's stuff or the family stuff. It's about my stuff. What do I want? What do I want my couch to look like? What rug do I want on the floor? It's a whole new, great, awesome experience. I really enjoyed it when I moved out. I moved into a little tiny 1-bedroom apartment on my own, and it was great. I got to do whatever I wanted to. Some of my furniture was cast off furniture from my parents. Oh, we don't use this bed anymore. It's just sitting here gathering dust. Why don't you take that? And, because you don't have any money, you're broke when you start out. And I mean, when I moved out on my own, I was making $5.45 an hour, which blows my mind now, but I was making $5.45 an hour. I moved out on my own. Eventually my boyfriend moved in with me, which was really strange how that happened, because one day I just came home and literally found him in my house. My daughter and I talk about that now. And she's like, oh my God, Dad was a stalker. And I'm like, well, he certainly was a breaking and entering guy, because he broke into my apartment. My apartment wasn't unlocked. He broke into my apartment. So I come home and find him on my couch going, how the hell did you get in my apartment? He's like, oh, I just came in the back window. I'm like, okay, that makes me feel really secure. Let's go buy a dowel for my back window so you can't do that anymore. Here's the key. So these things happen. And I really want her to have, I think she feels like she's failed to launch into adulthood because she lives at home with her mother.
Yeah.
But she does, chores around the house. She pays part of the bill. She does all of those things that a roommate would do. And the only thing I ask is, if you're going somewhere, let me know. If you're going to be really super late, let me know, so that I don't accidentally lock you out of the house because you haven't come home. I throw the chain on the back door and you can't get in. So, then we do the whole pounding on the door in the middle of the night, Mom falling down the stairs trying to get downstairs to open the door thing. And I'm like, let's not do that. I tell you, we text a lot, and that helps.
Do you have any idea of how you want your life to look?
I've been struggling with that for about 3 years. When I left my last corporate job, the first 9 months after that was literally recovery from my last job. The job environment was very toxic, and I spent 9 months just trying to get my ducks back in a row. I slept a lot probably the first 3 months. The only thing I felt like I did was sleep. I was so exhausted. And so then I kept thinking, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? So when I seriously started looking for another job, the problem that I was having with the job search was I couldn't find anything I wanted to do. I'm like, I don't want to do any of this stuff. And I just keep looking and keep looking and keep looking. So that's been a big challenge, finding something that I'm interested in doing. Because I'm not sure where I want to go next. And in the United States, they put up a lot of barriers. They're like, I want to do this kind of work, but in order to do that, I have to go back to school, get another $50,000 degree on top of the 2 degrees I already have in order to do this thing over here, which is just ridiculous. And I'm like, okay, because I can tell you now, my master's degree has been more of a hindrance in my job search than it helped.
Yeah.
Because I put that on there, people just won't even talk to me because they're like, oh no, she's going to cost too much. And I'm like, it might cost more than you want to pay, but you want to pay minimum wage for whatever job it is you're trying to hire for, and that's not realistic.
Yeah.
I said, but secondly, you're going to make up for it in the amount of help that I can give you, but they don't want to hear that, and you don't get an opportunity necessarily to speak to them because you're dropping your resume over and over into these electronic black holes. And then, like I said, I got a call from a lady. I dropped my resume into the electronic black hole in March. So I had completely forgotten I had even applied for the job. I couldn't even remember it. Luckily, I keep a book of all the things I apply for. And I flipped back through my book and I kept going and kept going. And I had to go to my first volume of my book in order to find the job ad. And I'm like, wow, that was a long time ago.
will you be, is developing Purple Scottie coaching something that you're going to be looking at?
It's interesting. One of the job offers I'm sitting on at the moment is for a place called Dimas House, and they are a faith-based organization that works with people who have addiction, anger management. They do court-ordered anger management, and they also help with housing, because a lot of these young men and young women are struggling with housing and homelessness. So they do have a small housing component, which I came from housing, so that is a comfort zone for me. Um, and the gentleman there who's the executive director is interested in having me co-lead some of their groups, and he wants to help me get the certification that I would need to be able to be a counselor versus doing administrative work, which is what I'm going to start off doing. So that'll be interesting to see how that works and what happens.
Does that take you closer to your dreams?
It does. The counseling part is a piece that I would really like to do, because I really want to help people, and I think that. And while I'm not dissing the fact that administrative isn't really important, and the paperwork has to move, especially in nonprofits. If the paperwork doesn't happen, the money doesn't happen, because most of your payments, from especially in the United States, from the federal government or from the state government, if you don't dot those I's, cross those T's, and fill out those forms, you don't get paid. And if you don't get paid, the programs collapse because you can't afford to do them.
Mm-hmm.
Even if the clients are paying a portion of it, most of them cannot bear the entire cost of the program, because the programs are very expensive. You have to have space, you have to have staff, you have to have um, pencils, you have to have all that stuff. So all that, electricity and internet access and laptops, and it
So
adds up pretty fast.
will the one that takes you closer to your will you, when you're making your decision, because you've got quite a couple of offers on the table now, will
Mm-hmm.
your dreams come into your decision making? I'm just curious, I suppose.
Well, it's
Or do you think that how, where on a list then would your dreams kind of go, if they, if you were to look at it like that?
Well, I wanted it to be in the top 3. I really did. I've looked a lot for nonprofit work because I really enjoy mission-driven work where there
Mhm.
is a purpose behind what you're doing, that isn't just, let's put more money in the bank, because a lot of corporations feel that way. It's like they may say, oh yes, we have all these values, blah blah blah. At the end of the day, is, did we make money, did we not make money, how much of that are we going to skim off the top for the shareholders, and what dregs are left for everyone else who actually does the work? Nonprofits are a little different. The advantage too of looking for a nonprofit job in the United States, at least, they have to file a thing called a 990, and a 990 shows the financial health of the organization. You can go in and pull those 990s and look at and see where the organization is. You can also see the salaries of the top 5 highest paid people in the
I know
organization.
that the UK has the Charities Commission each year produce the same
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing, and you can see how much of their revenue that they get in actually
Mm-hmm.
goes to the people that you believe you're supporting.
Right.
And some charities can get themselves into quite a bit of a pickle when you start to look at those things. So, but yeah. So, but
Yeah.
I'm really glad to hear that your dreams are definitely within the top 3.
Yes.
I suppose my next question would be which 1, 2, or 3, but at least the top 3. Um, so that's kind of cool. What inspired you to, because you Purple Scottie coaching is about working with people with trauma, and then even in
Yes.
your job pursuit, you are looking at at organizations that work with people to help them. So what took you to the helping? Because with 2 masters and things like that, I presume if you wanted to be an American millionaire, you probably could have been, and working within corporate. But something has kept you, or motivating. What inspires you and directs you towards wanting to help?
I think because when I had my trauma, I survived a rape in 1986, and I had a lot of people who were there to help me at that point in time. There was a great crisis center We had our first crisis counseling director was not that fabulous. She had a great heart. She tried really, really hard. She did not have an experience in her background that really gave her a sensitivity to what kind of issues she was really dealing with. And she tried really hard, and she definitely did everything she could to give everyone that worked with her as many resources as she could give them, but she didn't have a feel for it. Our next person who took over the crisis center had been an assault victim. She was beaten up on the street and mugged. She was in the hospital for 3 months. She really understood the trauma part of the crisis center, and it made her a better advocate because she knew she'd been there. You couldn't pull anything over on her. If you tried to like slide by a question, she was right on top of that. She's like, okay, well, that's not really what I asked you. So what I'm asking you is, and she'd chase you down the rabbit hole no matter how far you tried to go. And Helen knows from personal experience, I'm really good at rabbit holes. So
it's a shared passion to dive down those rabbit holes.
It's true. And so I think that's where it came from. That was the beginning of it, that, being in a group session and everybody in the group trying to support one person who's having a really tough time. And wanting more of that, the feeling, I think coaching though really brought it into sharp perspective for me. When I took my first coaching class and I was coaching with someone else, and you could see the light bulb go off in their head. They're just like, oh my God, how did this happen? You could see that light bulb go off and you're like, wow, that's amazing. And it's the best feeling. I didn't really do anything for them directly. I didn't say, you should do this. I said, what is it you think you should do? And watched them say something that surprised them. And the light bulb go off with, oh my God, how long have I been sitting on that?
I love that. That's one of the, and yeah, I completely share that moment that, sometimes you see it and sometimes you don't. Sometimes you're made aware of it and sometimes you're not. But I think it's when especially if it's happened when you're working with somebody the first time, it's like you can become addicted to that. Oh my gosh, I facilitated something that was magnificent for someone. And it might only be a small thing, but it is magnificent. There is that moment of, I helped that. I created that space where that could happen. Which is it is quite beautiful. So it was a lived experience of yourself in terms of experiencing trauma and then experiencing the support. I think what a little thing that's just kind of gone on in my head is that for a lot of people as well, one of the biggest things is actually reaching out for that support.
Reaching out is really difficult, difficult.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of people, especially on Facebook. I spend a lot of time there. I see people saying, oh, just reach out to me and I'll help you. Just reach out to me. I'm like, the problem is they don't feel worthy of reaching out for help. They're like, no, I'm just a burden. And I don't want to burden someone else with my problems. And another thing that I've noticed too is the people who tend to be the ones who check in on everyone else are the people that people don't check in on. So the people who are out there reaching out to making sure everyone else is okay, they're the ones that are drowning and no one knows it because they won't reach out for help. Because they're thinking, if I reach out to this person, they'll reach back to me and check on me, and that doesn't happen. Or it doesn't happen as often.
It is, I suppose it relates to that wounded healer. And I know I was talking to somebody a couple of weeks ago because they also trained as a drama therapist, which is where my training comes in. And that, you find the way of helping yourself so that you do think that you're more in control of it and you're not burdening anybody. But it is, it's heartbreaking as well that people who don't reach out, but you tend to offer what you would like. And like the other day, I was really blessed in experiencing a guided meditation. Now I do guided meditations. Every Thursday I get out and I do the meditations, and in sessions and things like that I will go. And what I realise is I love when somebody takes me on a meditation. I really enjoy it. And I kind of never associated I'm aware of the wounded healer, and I'm aware that you give out what you want to receive. But it's when I receive those meditations, I'm like, oh gosh, I love this. I want more of this. Um, but you know, it is that. So how? And I think I share. I don't know. I'm going to make a statement that I don't actually know is true. But I was about to say I share that frustration of how do you get people that 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 could would may benefit from support, but are not gonna they're not gonna come and ask you. They're not gonna come. How are you kind of navigating that? And I made the assumption that you also are frustrated by that. So forgive me if you're not.
No, I'm a little frustrated by it. I mean, I went through a period of depression about a month ago where I could literally barely get out of bed, and I really, really struggled. And, you know, I'm reaching out to everybody that I know to make sure that they're okay. But very few people ask me if I'm okay, and that's frustrating and, you know, a little painful. But so many people right now are wrapped up in what is going to be, I think, a generational trauma for the world, because we're all in this um, weird space. I was talking to one of my meditation groups the other day, and we were talking about the fact that this feels like the time of the tower. Everything is falling apart,
The
and
tarot.
it's, yeah, the tarot card, the
Yeah,
tower, where
yeah.
everything is just, you know, thunder and lightning and the tower's collapsing, and it's like, okay, it's really, really scary at this point, but hopefully it will be a good thing because we have options about how we rebuild. It's like, okay, now we can see how broken this thing is. What can we do to make it better? Because this is obviously, this piece of whatever our society is completely broken.
Yeah.
How are we going to fix that? You know, are we
Well,
going to
I'll
go out
want
in the
to wash
streets? Are
away,
we,
allow it to wash away, and
right,
create a new foundation, create something new.
right.
I've been quite fascinated by um, the planets actually, this, as it's happening upon the Earth, the celestial heavens and the planets are aligning, and I'm like, this is phenomenal. You know, like this is just wow, wow. And there seems to be there is definitely a, a, a chasm, is that the right word? An opening happening,
Glad, hmm,
like an
chasm.
opening, a chasm of people who are okay, let's create something new. Let's really put our energy into visualizing and then becoming, you know, the visualizers, then the practical people. And there's lots of different types
Mhm.
of people that are like, right, then let's create this. And then there seems to be a chasm occurring with those that are um, believing different narratives and just want things back to normal and fear and even if they're aware that things were broken, you know, let's just get on with it. Let's just and for me, I see a kind of chasm appearing, and I'm what I don't know if you would identify it in that way, but the bridge of like, well, we'll try and create something new, and then there's these people going, no, let's just keep it as it is. I don't know if you've seen that or if that would be your experience. So I suppose I'll ask, what is your experience of that? If
I think I think it's been really interesting. In the United States, we're so divided by politics, and we have been for the last 4 years. We're very divided by politics. And part of the reason why I think we're struggling so much with COVID right now is because of politics. Um, People are blindly following, and some people are blindly following either side, you know, and it's frustrating. And I've had this frustration for a while. People are always like, oh, science is always right. Science is always right. I'm like, science is always right to a degree, but you have to remember scientists are people and they make mistakes. They lie. They do bad things just like any other, just like politicians do, just like school teachers do, just like the average guy on the street working retail does. Everybody's human, and they all have those moments of human frailty where they do something that is wrong. So you can't believe anything blindly, I think,
yeah,
as far as that goes. At the same time, I don't understand certain things. Like, I don't understand why wearing a mask is a huge deal. I don't understand why it's a drama. I have a little bit of claustrophobia. My mother also had, her claustrophobia was extremely bad. She couldn't scuba dive because of claustrophobia. She couldn't stand the mask on her face. And so when I put the mask on, I also had an issue when I was giving birth to my daughter. They put a mask on my face and the air wasn't flowing fast enough. So I took a huge deep breath in, it just stuck to my face and I couldn't breathe. So and I literally tore the mask off my face and threw it across the room, which completely freaked out the doctor and the midwife. He was like, "Oh my God." And I'm like, "No, that thing cannot be on my face. I can't breathe." So when I wear a mask, I do have that little bit of panic breathing. I will find myself breathing a little rapidly, but I understand too that it's more important. I don't feel like I'm sick, but that doesn't mean I'm not sick. I don't know because I haven't been tested. I don't think that it's a big deal for me to make sure that my neighbor who lives next door who's battling cancer doesn't get COVID from me because I'm not willing to put a piece of, cloth across my face. I can't understand why it's a big deal. And everyone's like, oh. I'm like, what? Are they coming to take your guns too? Because did I miss that part? Because that's usually the big cry is, oh no, the liberals are going to come take our guns. I'm like, honey, I have guns. I'm not going to lend you mine, but I'm not taking yours either because I like mine. So, there's a lot of, I think that there's an opportunity to rebuild. I'm not sure everyone will embrace the opportunity to rebuild.
When you were talking, one of the things that came to mind with regards to science is my understanding of science is that science is not static. I mean,
Right.
everything changes, but if anything in my years upon this planet has shown me is that science is constantly evolving, and sometimes it's fast, sometimes it's not. I mean, I remember when they said don't eat eggs are bad for you, then you could eat eggs, then don't do this, and now you can do that, and don't do this and you can, from in every sphere of human living, whether it's down to vaccine, we won't go into the vaccinations, but vaccinations, baby food, which way do you lie your baby on your front, do you lie your baby on your back, do you have to have this many steps, should you eat this many veg a day, should you not eat that many veg a day? And it is a constant evolution of information, and science is something that is not static. So whether you choose to believe the science that this person's giving you and not look at where the money's coming from of the information that they're giving you, or you choose to
That's the key point. That's the key point right there. Who paid for the study is a huge point. And I always, whenever somebody's citing a study, I'm like, okay, stop for a second. I haven't read the study, but one thing I want to ask is who paid for the study? And they always look stunned, like I hit them with a hammer. And I'm like, if you're doing a thing saying dairy's great and you were paid by the Dairy Association, that's automatically suspect because they basically paid you to get that answer.
And which studies are brought out into the light? Who's bringing them out? So that's the thing with science, is that it is just a constant evolution of knowledge, and where's the knowledge coming from? It's a bit like the media. Whose media is it? What bias do they have? So and I think that this time is it's actually the frustration with this time is that there is so much information, and if you go and do your research, you can find studies from reputable. If I wanted to find a study that told me that that the sky was, I'm trying to think of green, I could. There's very possibly, if I looked hard enough, I could find the science to back up that belief. And we are in this time of who do we believe, what do we believe, where do we go, and who do you get your research from, and even the search engines, unless we're going to the libraries in the old-fashioned way and getting out loads of books.
But we can't go there because they won't let us in the door.
We're using these search engines. Well, this search engine is actually giving me this information, and that search engine gives me that information, and it's painful. I have found it incredibly painful. So I have become quite, I'm going to use the word arrogant, because I do have elements of arrogance about me, and I've become quite arrogant in, no matter what I hear, I actually just want to ask my higher self, I want to take time and say, does this resonate as true for me? And have that awareness of my own bias. Like, I do have certain beliefs. So is this buying into my belief? Is it challenging my belief? And just because it's challenging my belief doesn't mean it's not true. And I need to get past that ego state of, oh no, we don't believe this. Well, why don't we believe this? And what's about it? And actually asking me, and I'm not a scientist, and I'm not a politician, and I'm not a, I don't have not knowledge about absolutely everything. It's just to get to know me and to, does this resonate as truth for me? Is this something that I can say, okay, I will wear a mask or I won't wear a mask? I will wash my hands 5,000 times a day, or I won't wash my hands 5,000 times a day. I will hug someone or I won't hug someone. And I've kind of made up my own mind about those things. But what I would love is if that we could all just respect each other's individuality and sovereignty. And this is what I'm choosing for me. But it is, as I say, I just see this chasm appearing, which is quite, we'll see where it all goes. We'll see where it all goes.
It's interesting and it's frustrating at the same time. I understand that. And people struggle with all different kinds of reasons for doing things. I have people in my life who have a son who has cystic fibrosis, and it makes her just absolutely wild that people won't wear masks, because her son he already has lost so much lung function because of the cystic fibrosis, that if he gets COVID, that would be the end of it for him.
Yeah.
He would not survive that. And, and she feels like people just don't care. And in some way, people don't care. People are like, oh my God, I need a haircut. I'm like, as someone who almost never cuts her hair, I'm like, okay, right. So, but it puts us at odds with each other. And I think that is very advantageous for the political movements that are happening right now, if we are pitted against each other and not united against the bad things that are going on in our government that affect everyone.
The divide and conquer has, for me, been ramped up, that we're no longer divided by, before they've used the go-tos, I suppose, race, gender, religion, sexuality, whatever. They've used some of the bigger ones to divide us. Now they have literally divided families. They have divided communities. They have divided households. They have divided one human against another human. And whether you believe it's been planned, and whether it's a creative, whatever your beliefs are, that is what has actually happened. That we are now like so fearful of each other, and the possibility that you may give me something that I may give to somebody else, that is quite it's heartbreaking, in all fairness.
Yeah.
That for me it is heartbreaking. I mean, and then as the science comes out and more things are coming out to say that actually the virus is not, asymptomatic people. If you haven't got any symptoms, you can't pass it on. If you haven't, and masks are actually lowering your immune system, so you're not doing yourself any favors when you're wearing them anyway, and you're just not helping. And so there's lots of different, as I say, this evolution of the sciences are coming out to say that these different things, and perhaps we didn't really need to lock everybody down, and it's only an extremely small percentage of the populations that would have died anyway that will be, and it's just so heartbreaking that we are now at odds with each other, and we are no longer comfortable with each other. And then when people are joining and going, well, actually I am comfortable with people, that some of us are looking and going, how irresponsible could you be? And it's just heartbreaking. If you want to go and party, go and party. I'm really, life is fragile. and it is wonderful and fragile. But I could be carrying something quite deadly, and I'm not even COVID before this even came about, and not know, have a small cut on my finger, touch something, and you come and I walk away. You come along, pick it, hepatitis, say, you pick it up, and you just happen to have a cut somewhere else, and that's it. You know, you've got open wound on open wound, and you've done it. This was always there. These things, malaria and all of these diseases that were always there, and now we are so frightened of each other. I think that's the saddest thing for me, is the fear that we all hold with each other. You
Well,
know.
I think too, it stripped us of a lot of our coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
You know, you can't, you know, my daughter and I hug a lot because we're in the same house. Um, but generally speaking, I went and saw my friends and we did a whole distancing picnic on her porch. Yeah, we bumped elbows, but we're used to hugging, and it was like really hard because we're all like getting ready to hug each other, and they're like, oh, we can't do that. And that lack of human contact is really devastating,
This as well.
especially as months and months drag on. And it gets more and more, you know, do you help the little lady standing next to you in line at the DMV because she can't stand anymore?
There's been a
You
lot.
know, and I'm like, I grab her a chair and, you know, here you go. And then when we have to move, we help her move the chair so she doesn't have to drag it by herself. And, you know, but the thing that's interesting is you watch the best of people come out and the worst of people come out at the same time. You watch people who are literally the person helping the little old lady with the chair, you know, and then you have the guy screaming at the guy at the front of the door that won't let you in because you don't have a mask on and the city says you have to, and he's throwing a fit, you know. So you have all of these things happening at the same time. So you're seeing when you get put into a pressure cooker, the best of you and the worst of you comes out. My daughter and I fight a lot more than we used to because we're both under a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
I'm a really heavy duty introvert. I like being at home by myself. And with her in the house, you know, I said earlier, I don't see her that much during the day, but she interrupts me 3 or 4 times during the day when she comes down for breaks, when she comes down for breakfast in the morning. You know, usually by then I was already gone to work. So,
There's another energy and you're aware of
right.
the energy because the energy is there. Yeah. So, do you have any plans for the next 3 to 6 months?
Well, I'm probably going to be starting at least one new job, maybe two, because one of the jobs is part-time and I'm hoping I can swing it around the full-time job.
Okay, cool.
Because having a little extra cash would be great. Not that I can go anywhere or spend anything, but
It helps.
like, right, right. Because I mean, my house is old, and there's going to be problems down the line. I can see it. I can always see it coming. And I have a tree I'd like to have removed from my yard, and I know it's going to be expensive. So I'm going to try to do that. I also want to finish writing my book that I've been working on for a while. I would like to finish that. Um, and I'm going to continue looking for. I read a book called The Reinvention Roadmap, which is written by Liz Ryan. She runs the Human Workplace. Her campaign has basically been, work in America is broken. It's been broken for a very long time and we need to fix it. And she advocates for a lot of changes in the workplace and how people function in the workplace. And one of the things she talks about is constantly being an advocate for your career and constantly and being mindful when you're making changes. I've never done that in the past. I've gotten a job and just stayed there until either I was forced to do something else.
Mhm.
And so trying to map out, I was a little upset the other day thinking about, man, if I do this for so many years and then how am I going to get from point A to point B? I have a limited amount of time to work. I'm like, oh, wait, this is the United States. I have to work till I'm 70. So I have 15 more years to figure out how to get from point A to point B. So I can get there in 15 years. I just got to, you know, figure out what steps I want to take. And one of the things she brought to me that I never thought about, literally never thought about my entire career, was what can I learn from this organization?
Yeah,
I'm going to come here and learn things. What things am I going to learn? And how am I going to know when it's time to move on?
yeah.
So, and I never thought about that. To be honest, if my last boss at my last corporate job, my first boss at my last corporate job had stayed, I would still be there.
Okay.
He retired, and then I had two different managers after him. one of whom was okay. He wasn't fabulous, but he was okay. And then another manager who was toxic. And I'm like, and I think the thing that frustrated me the most is, the whole team has been together as a group for like at least 10 years. Some of us had been together for 15, some of us had been there for 10. And we're all telling everyone, this person can't do this job. And this is why everything's getting screwed up, because they're not doing their job. And literally no one would listen. And it was very frustrating. Our whole team either quit, transferred to a different division, or retired. Even people who had no plans on retired just to get away from this manager. And I'm like, can you not see how this is damaging your business? So that was very frustrating to me. And I think I'm going to do my best not to work for people who don't deserve for me to work for them.
Fabulous.
People, if you want me to work for you, you have to lead. You can't just be a manager. You have to lead.
Yeah. So you're looking for a leader rather than a manager. But how can people contact you if they wanted to connect with you after seeing the conversation?
Oh, great idea. Good thought. Well, you can find me on Facebook at Purple Scottie Coaching.
Okay. I'm just going to make a note so that I can put the information down below.
Excellent. I'm trying to remember what my Instagram handle is, and I don't remember off the top of my head because I have like several that I use. You can find me on Goodreads. I do
if you
book
want
reviews on Goodreads. Huh?
Okay. On Goodreads.
Yeah, and I do the ones on Goodreads, and they're
if you want to send me the information, and then I can put it on when we finish.
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I can do that.
So people can connect with you on Facebook, on Instagram, on Goodreads.
Or on Goodreads, Twitter.
Okay.
Although Twitter's a bit of a cesspool at the moment. Everybody's angry on Twitter. One of the ladies I follow does tarot. She's called the Tarot Lady. And I've switched to following her on Instagram more than she's on my Twitter feed still, but she's like, I have to disengage from Twitter because everyone's just so angry. I
do find Instagram is more, I find Facebook very angry. I don't really do post on Twitter, but I don't really engage. And I do find Instagram a little bit more, I don't know.
I think people are trying to do their stuff on Instagram. They're trying to do whatever it is they need to do. If it's, doing their business, or if it's doing, showing pictures of their gardening, because they just, got, my one friend posted, my one friend posted a picture. He's like, I planted these lilies 6 years ago. This is the first time they've ever bloomed. He was so excited. He couldn't stand it.
So my question to you, Mary, what truth would you like to share?
Everything is transitory. This time of craziness is transitory. Eventually something different will happen, but this is our opportunity to make sure that that different thing is better for everybody and not just better for, a few people. Okay. But we have to be mindful of the fact that this time will pass.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for asking me.
Thank you for joining me in conversation. Thank you to everyone for watching. Mary, if you just hold on one moment. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the conversation. Subscribe, like, and all of that stuff, and share. And I will post down below information on how you can connect with Mary, and how you can connect with myself should anything I have said make you want to work with me. So, again, thank you very much, and I will now stop recording.